Deion Sanders faces fresh attacks from old family rivals who once went after Shedeur. The feud between the Sanders and Norvell families has flared up again, and this time, it's Jay Norvell's son leading the charge. After Colorado wrapped a frustrating 3-9 season, Jayden Norvell jumped online to take a direct swipe at Deion Sanders' record, comparing Coach Prime's 16-21 mark to his father's final tally at Colorado State. His posts quickly reignited a rivalry that already had a long, messy history. Way different culture, buddy. See what I'm talking about? They don't want the culture, Jayden said in one of his IG stories. On Instagram, Jayden highlighted how close the two records are, pointing out that Sanders remains in charge at Colorado despite the struggles. Only after the new shots sparked attention did the timeline start to make sense because this feud has been simmering for years. Back in October, after leading a 2-5 season, Colorado State decided to part ways with coach Jay Norvell. Norvell finished his tenure with a disappointing 18-26 record, with a 13-13 mark in the Mountain West Conference. His IG story made it a little too apparent that Sanders is still at Colorado despite posting a similar losing record. Is it just family bias, or has Sanders truly earned his spot? Well, sure, Deion Sanders had a rough season this year, but let's not forget he's the same person who took his team to a 9-4 record and led them to a bowl game for the first time since 2020 last year. With that, he also developed a dual-threat athlete, Travis Hunter, who won the Heisman Trophy under him and also went second overall to the Jacksonville Jaguars. And all this in just 2 years of time span. So showing trust in him makes sense. But this isn't the first time Jay Norvell's family has taken digs at Deion Sanders and his team. Back in 2023, Norvell's wife, Kim Norvell, posted a tweet on Shedeur Sanders' behavior after their 43-35 overtime win, which later got deleted. Shedeur has this thing of making a post-game gesture after the win, pointing at the opposite team and showing off his watch, which symbolizes it's time. The feud between Deion Sanders and the Norvell family did not begin this week. It did not begin last season, and it certainly did not begin with a single petty Instagram story. It has been a living, breathing thing for years, quiet at times, explosive at others, always simmering beneath the surface of college football's chaotic landscape. But as Colorado closed the book on a painful 3-9 season, the old rivalry was suddenly pulled back into the spotlight. This time not by Jay Norvell himself, but by his son, Jayden, who stepped forward with a spark that instantly reignited a dormant fire. Online, through the familiar glow of Instagram stories, he delivered the latest shot, a swipe at Deion Sanders' record 16-21 overall, compared with his father's final tally at Colorado State. The numbers were held side by side as if they were an indictment, as if they told a story simple enough to explain away years of context, ambition, failure, growth, and the weight of rebuilding. And once again, one family that has long measured itself against the presence of Coach Prime decided to take its turn at the microphone. Jayden's words, clipped and confident, jumped off the screen the way insults do when they come with history behind them. Way different culture, buddy, he said pointedly. See what I'm talking about? They don't want the culture. A single sentence packed with accusation, dismissal, and an entire worldview aimed straight at Deion Sanders. His posts, delivered as if he had been waiting for his moment, spread quickly, igniting a new round of debate and injecting fresh heat into a rivalry that has refused to die. To outsiders, it may have looked like a random off-season jab, but anyone familiar with the Sanders-Norvell saga knew exactly what was happening. The timeline began to make sense because this feud has never been temporary, never been one of those fleeting social media flare-ups that vanish by morning. Instead, it has always been rooted in the pride and frustration that come with families defending their own legacies. To understand Jayden's latest shots, you have to rewind to October, when Colorado State made the decision to part ways with coach Jay Norvell after a difficult 2-5 start that spiraled into a disappointing 18-26 overall postseason mark. Norvell's time in Fort Collins had moments of promise, but they were overshadowed by inconsistency and losses that became too hard to explain away. When he left, there was no victory lap, no celebrated ending. Just a flat exit and the reality that the program was not moving forward the way it hoped. So when Jaden resurfaced with comparisons to Deion Sanders' record, the intent seemed less like analysis and more like consolation, a way of rewriting what had just happened by pointing outward instead of inward. Look, the records are similar. Look, one man is gone while the other remains in his job. Look, maybe the wrong Norvell left the sideline. Or maybe, in Jaden's eyes, Deion Sanders hadn't done enough to deserve staying. But that argument falls apart when stripped of bitterness and viewed with football's full lens. Yes, Deion Sanders endured a brutal 3-9 season. No one denies that. It stung, it exposed weaknesses, and it left Colorado scrambling to rebuild parts of its identity. But the year before, Sanders had engineered something that Colorado hadn't felt in years' belief. He led the Buffaloes to a 9-4 record, brought them to a bowl game for the first time since 2020, and did so while elevating Travis Hunter into a phenomenon, a once-in-a-generation dual-threat star who not only won the Heisman Trophy but cemented himself as one of college football's greatest modern talents. Under Sanders' guidance, Hunter went second overall to the Jacksonville Jaguars, becoming a symbol of what Colorado could be under the right leadership. And that's the difference. Jay Norvell was never able to create that kind of gravitational pull, that kind of national energy, that sense of football becoming bigger than the field. Deion Sanders did all of that in 2 years. So yes, he struggled this season, but context and vision matter. Colorado kept him because the foundation he's building extends beyond a single record. To fully appreciate why Jaden Norvell's latest comments feel like an extension of an old wound, you have to revisit what happened in 2023. That season, Jay Norvell's wife, Kim, entered the spotlight after Colorado's thrilling 43-35 overtime win over Colorado State. Shedeur Sanders, fiery and confident, had made his now famous post-game gesture, pointing at his watch, signaling it's time, a swaggering punctuation mark he used against teams that doubted him. After the game, Kim reacted to the moment in a way that lit social media ablaze. She called him out publicly, writing in a tweet that Shedeur acted like a bee when he flashed his watch after her husband turned his back to Deion. The tweet was harsh, emotional, and impulsive, so much so that it was eventually deleted. But the damage had been done. The rivalry escalated. And once again, the Sanders family found itself being framed not just as opponents but as villains in someone else's storyline. What makes this feud complicated is that Deion Sanders has rarely taken the bait. Last year, after Colorado beat CSU 28-9, he addressed the situation with a calmness that surprised many people. He spoke about meeting Kim Norvell at Big 12 meetings, described her as delightful, and sidestepped the hostility with grace. "I'm not looking for an apology," he said. "I don't judge people based off what they say when they're emotional." It was a moment that showed the contrast between the families, one fighting loudly, the other rising above publicly even when privately frustrated. Sanders ended that moment with a simple but pointed statement. "When you show me who you are, I gotta believe you." It echoed with a quiet firmness, a sign that he saw exactly what was happening and chose not to escalate. But Jaden Norvell wasn't finished, and he wasn't interested in settling scores with only Deion Sanders. His frustration overflowed into a new target, his father's former team. The more he spoke, the clearer it became that his jabs were fueled not only by competitive rivalry but also by personal disappointment. He had served as a student assistant under Jay Norvell at Colorado State, contributing ideas, helping shape game concepts, and striving to be part of the program's identity. In his mind, he had value. But after Jay was dismissed, Jaden felt that he, too, was shoved out, discarded by a program he believed he helped elevate. On Instagram, he released a blistering critique of CSU, calling the program no longer relevant, saying the U is canceled, and dismissing its culture entirely. He framed the campus as a place where football ambition had died, replaced by apathy, beer drinking, and mediocrity. He even went so far as to say that unless a player was a mediocre Big Sky type player, the program had nothing real to offer. His words were raw, unfiltered, and clearly laced with personal hurt.